launching my campaign.
I am. Why do they look so small?
Yeah, we had more dwarfs than we did viewers in most of these theaters.
They're repaid for every hour that it is streamed online.
If I'm gonna stand in a dress all day long, we do that. All women do that.
Steven
anyway.
Spielberg not pay you for your role in West Side Story? Did Disney fail to give you a healthy paycheck for Cry Me a River? She's just exactly everything that we can't stand.
At the end of the day, we're still women, we still want to be in love, and we still like men.
Rachel Zegler, the embattled lead of Disney's ill-fated Snow White remake, has reportedly thrown down an astonishing $200 million gauntlet. Industry chatter says she showed up to an emergency legal session with the studio's top brass, demanding a massive payout to offset what she calls a campaign to pin the film's disastrous run on her.
That she believes that she should be able to express herself and speak her truth or whatever nonsense, regardless of the consequences to everybody else.
Word of this $200 million showdown has exploded on social media, leaving fans and insiders stunned. According to whispers, Zegler is furious that Disney's narrative makes her look like the prime culprit for the flop.
People have real problems and no one gives a shit if she got paid for 17 instead of 18 on her multi-million-dollar salary, which is not calculated by the hour.
She's allegedly telling lawyers she was just following instructions when she slammed the original 1937 classic and took bold political stances, only to see executives backtrack once public outrage soared. If the rumors are true, that eye-popping figure stands as a symbol of how out of control the entire fiasco has become, and of how certain Zegler is that Disney, not her, deserves the blame.
These seem to be the only talking points that these two actresses have been given because they are regurgitating them in literally every single interview that they have done.
This emergency legal meeting ignited a new wave of speculation. Has Rachel Zegler truly threatened such a colossal claim? People close to the actress say she arrived armed with her own counsel, not out of meekness, but to make a statement. She's said to feel cornered by Disney's abrupt shift from championing her modern approach to demanding a scapegoat after the film's humiliating box office and PR meltdown. Some watchers find the rumored sum ludicrous, pointing out no single star typically demands that much from one project.
With the same smugness and pleasure around it, here's another one. Again, just as insufferable as the first.
The cartoon was made 85 years ago. It's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power and what a woman is fit for. Snow White has to learn a lot of lessons about coming into her own power before she can come into power over a kingdom.
Yet, for a company as big as Disney, desperate to bury a fiasco that's cost them dearly, $200 million might be an ominous sign of hush money, or an attempt to quash deeper revelations about behind-the-scenes bungling. Observers suspect Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, was blindsided by the magnitude of her demands, fueling speculation that the relationship between actress and studio has devolved into an all-out war.
Have you ever considered that your fairy tales have actually stood the test of time because they are always relevant, because that is what a fairy tale is?
That sense of war only adds to the sense of total chaos surrounding Snow White. For months, controversies battered the film's reputation. From reshot dwarfs replaced by off-putting CGI creatures, to Zegler publicly calling the original prince a stalker, to political statements about Trump supporters and Palestine. Then co-star Gal Gadot weighed in with pro-Israel commentary, intensifying a clash that no family-friendly marketing could rescue. The fiasco only mushroomed, culminating in empty theaters and a tepid opening weekend that critics still mock relentlessly.
It's because they have timeless, universal values and lessons that any person, regardless of their age, regardless of their generation, could connect to. That is why they are so important. That is why they have been around for hundreds of years. You didn't start these fairy tales. Grimm's fairy tales, that's where they came from. People love these for a reason because of the values.
Inside Disney, panic set in as negative reviews soared. Fans fumed that the once charming fairy tale had been rewritten into a hollow commercial for social messaging, and certain producers took a scathing approach in public, like Jonah Platt, son of lead producer Mark Platt, who blasted Zegler for making everything worse. Now, with the possibility of a high-stakes legal showdown, the meltdown has grown unstoppable, overshadowing any hope of redemption for a film that cost a rumored $250 million just to produce.
Just looks horrific. It's so out of place. And when you see them dancing next to Rachel Zegler, who's an actual human actor, it just looks awful. They don't match up. They're deep into the uncanny valley. It is the worst possible choice they could have made. It would have been so much. It would be so much easier if they just used actual dwarf actors. I don't know why they haven't done that.
Yet, If Zegler truly walked into that emergency meeting brandishing a $200 million figure, the question is, how did things escalate to this point? Reports suggest Disney once championed her outspoken approach, encouraging the cast to tout the film's feminist spin as a bold new direction. But once fans revolted, seats stayed empty, and critics hammered the final product, top executives allegedly pivoted, labeling Zegler's unfiltered remarks as a key factor in the film's downfall.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true.
Oh my god, it's a really incredible story. You're making this girl boss story based on an important father figure. Her father tells her to be brave and strong. Don't you think that there's something redeeming about men in this story?
The actress reportedly feels betrayed. She contends that her remarks about modernizing outdated storylines and empowering a new generation were shaped by the studio's own talking points. Now, facing catastrophic losses, Disney has implied she went rogue, publicly mocking a beloved cinematic treasure. This is precisely why she's rumored to have come armed with legal counsel, to show that her statements, from calling the original cartoon weird to mixing promotional tweets with political jabs, were all part of a broader directive. If that's true, then who's truly at fault?
Disney CEO Bob Iger, the many executives over there, the board of directors, they are all in panic mode over this movie.
The debate rages among fans, critics, and insiders. Was Zegler reckless or a loyal soldier for a misguided campaign? One argument is that the star has a right to her own commentary, but not if it trashes a fundamental piece of Disney lore and alienates half the prospective audience. Another perspective says a big studio like Disney typically coordinates messaging. So if Zegler was so out of line, why did it take them so long to muzzle her? This fiasco, in a sense, calls into question how thoroughly the company tested the waters before unleashing a marketing narrative that many viewers found off-putting. As the conversation gets more volatile, the rumored $200 million showdown underscores Zegler's stance that she's not going to be scapegoated without a massive compensation for damage to her career.
She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Oh my God.
Nobody
Who
wants
wants
that.
a movie about true love? What kind of woman do we want out there seeking true love, Eliana? The outrage.
Damage indeed has been done. The film's domestic haul, around $43 million, stunned even the harshest critics who predicted a lukewarm but not disastrous debut. International figures remain dismal, leaving the total well below the break-even threshold. Disney has seen major blockbusters falter before, but not often with such intense negative press. Industry watchers note how the fiasco dwarfs typical underperformances. This meltdown involves fan campaigns urging boycotts, press images of deserted cinemas, and an unprecedented public clash between star and studio.
These big bad feminists now are telling us that's ridiculous. How dare you want to meet a handsome prince and be swept off of your feet and live happily ever after? No, you should want to be the prince. You should want to go out and fight the bad guys with a sword.
Zegler's $200 million rumor feels like the meltdown's apex, with both parties entangled in a costly no-win scenario. Disney had built a brand on trusting audience nostalgia, and now it faces a humiliating scandal that calls into question if the entire approach to reimagining classics has jumped the shark. Observers keep referencing a rumored behind-the-scenes rift, where certain Disney execs argued for a more faithful Snow White, while others insisted on radical changes. Less romance, reworked dwarfs, stronger moral messaging. Zegler, placed center stage, championed the new direction publicly. But once negativity peaked, those execs might have thrown her under the bus.
Peter Dinklage said it was backwards to cast real dwarves as dwarves, even though he's made a whole career out of being a real dwarf who's played dwarves in movies and made millions doing it.
She, in turn, sees the meltdown as engineered from the top and feels that if her statements were truly so damaging, Disney should share that blame. If the rumored $200 million figure is real, it might reflect not just an attempt to recoup personal losses, but to expose how deeply the studio was complicit. Some watchers whisper that if negotiations fail, she could reveal internal memos or instructions that show how the 1937 film's legacy was systematically dismantled for modern wokeness, or how cast members were told to incite controversy for press. If that's the case, Disney has every incentive to find a hush-hush settlement, no matter how steep.
This is really a bad movie, and I apologize to Walt Disney himself. I'm sorry.
Meanwhile, the film's co-star, Gal Gadot, has mostly avoided direct blame. While she took her own political stands, watchers say her measured approach to interviews and social media kept her relatively safe. The meltdown thus focused on Zegler's more extreme statements, especially those ridiculing the original storyline. But who's to say Godot might not be next if the meltdown continues? Some watchers suspect Zegler's meltdown overshadowed everything. But if her rumored $200 million demand leads to open legal conflict, the entire cast's behind-the-scenes dealings might spill out. The meltdown watchers question how the dwarf's fiasco ties into it all. Did the studio truly believe fans would welcome a fully CG stand-in for the iconic dwarfs? Or was that another example of misguided leadership that Zegler might highlight to show the meltdown was bigger than her?
Then they got even crazier and they decided that the dwarves in Snow White weren't woke enough, okay?
From the vantage point of fans who once revered Snow White, the meltdown is heartbreaking. The original 1937 movie is historically monumental, launching Walt Disney's golden era. Now it's become a symbol of how thoroughly the modern approach can backfire when it runs roughshod over the charm that made the tale timeless. The meltdown watchers mention how older fans' frustration boiled over, culminating in calls to boycott or savage online reviews. Scenes of children in empty theaters underline how thoroughly the meltdown overshadowed the potential for family fun. For critics, it's a feast of negativity, with endless fodder about misguided brand expansions, star controversies, and unforced marketing errors.
Because guess what? Nobody grew up with that crap, and nobody's all that interested in it. It's very good for people to learn that women need men, and also that men need women. I don't know why this fell out of fashion, and we're not allowed to just say that sort of stuff anymore, but it actually happens to be the truth.
One question is how Bob Iger will handle the rumored confrontation over $200 million. If that figure is anywhere near accurate, it might be an initial gambit. Typically, both star and studio settle for far less after tough negotiations. But watchers say Zegler's meltdown has so deeply tarnished the brand that the company might pay big to hush further revelations. On the other hand, if Disney stands firm, we might see an epic court battle full of depositions, text messages, and emails, revealing exactly who decided what about Prince's stalkerish lines, dwarfs' replacements, and political tweets. That would overshadow everything else for months, maybe years, and could devastate what's left of the public's trust in the studio's ability to handle iconic properties.
The fact that Disney's budget for Snow White 2025 was well above $350 million altogether when you're factoring in marketing expenses and everything to do with their overall support for Rachel Zegler.
Meanwhile, the meltdown watchers note that many star-driven fiascos blow over once the next big story emerges, but this fiasco has proven resilient. Possibly that's due to Snow White's significance in Disney lore. Possibly it's because the meltdown has a million angles, from Zegler's open condemnation of entire groups, to the dwarfs fiasco, to co-star friction, to the overshadowing question of whether progressive revision can ever please a broad family audience. This meltdown is unstoppable in part because it's about more than just one star's foot-in-mouth moment. It's about a storied brand reeling from the realization it can't force fans to accept radical changes without risking mass revolt. And then there's the question, if Zegler truly obtains or even aims for $200 million, how does that reflect on the state of star negotiations in the streaming and remake era? The meltdown watchers say it's a sign that no big production is safe from meltdown-level demands if controversies explode. Typically, star contracts revolve around base pay and residual structures. But if Zegler claims the meltdown destroyed her career trajectory, leading to enormous lost opportunities, that might be the rationale behind such a huge figure. Some watchers see it as a shock and awe tactic to force Disney's hand. Others see it as a meltdown manifestation of an actress who soared too high, too quickly, then crashed.
All these studios have to stop letting their actors loose. I mean, honestly, just shut your actors up.
At the same time, the meltdown watchers recall that other fiascos eventually fade. If Disney settles with Zegler quietly, the meltdown might vanish from headlines, leading to a hush resolution and perhaps a reimagined Snow White 2.0 down the line. The meltdown watchers note that the studio has a record of reboots after short intervals if a brand is strong enough. The question is, can Snow White bounce back from an overshadowing meltdown that left it scorched in the public eye? No matter how negotiations unfold, the meltdown watchers expect ramifications beyond this single film. Disney might adopt stricter guidelines for how cast members address classics or politics. Zegler might pivot to smaller, more edgy roles, leaving behind big family-oriented franchises. The meltdown watchers sense that this fiasco will be taught as a lesson in film school and marketing seminars, how not to handle a brand this iconic. And so, we end with one final question. Does Rachel Zegler truly have the leverage to demand $200 million, or is it a dramatic ploy to underscore how fiercely she believes Disney set her up to fail? If she can produce evidence that she was just following instructions, the Meltdown watchers say the studio might face an embarrassing ordeal. Meanwhile, Bob Iger stands at a crossroads. Ignore the meltdown and risk it ballooning into a full-blown legal scandal, or pay off the star who contributed to one of the biggest brand embarrassments in years. Each path is rife with risk. What do you think? Is Rachel Zegler's rumored $200 million showdown the final meltdown chapter, or just another twist in the ongoing fiasco? Sound off in the comments, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out the next video on your screen for more jaw-dropping Hollywood drama you won't want to miss.